Okay, so the next point is money. I think this is huge. So health, wealth, love, happiness. Like, I think money is very important. You know, that common question where it's like, can money buy happiness? And, you know, of course, it's not a dry cut answer. But maybe money can't buy happiness. But then again, maybe money may not make you happy. But at the same time, maybe money doesn't make you not happy, if that makes sense. So a classic example is like, I'd rather be crying in a Lamborghini Ferrari than in a park bench. But according to Dan Lock's book, which is a really good book, I love it, I recommend everyone to read it. It's called F You Money. You can actually get it for free. I'm not affiliating wow. I sound like a YouTuber who's like knows everything, but I'm not like affiliated with him or anything, although I'd love to be. But go read his book. You can actually get it for free. You sign up to his email list, you get the book, the audio version, and then you unsubscribe, and you just have the book forever. But the stuff that he talks about is really cool. There's a lot of misconceptions about rich people. So, for example, you know, you may look at someone like in a Ferrari or something, and you just call them an asshole. Like, you associate rich people with being an asshole, but when in reality, that guy probably worked really hard to get to where he was. And like, I'm sure there's some asshole rich people who are born rich and kind of spoiled, but in general, that's not the case. Like, a lot of rich people, they start off with nothing. Like Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, they were all broken shit, and then now they're super rich, and they actually give a lot of money back to society. And we still fucking complain like, fuck Mark Zuckerberg, he's just using us. And he's leveraging our time, he's smart. But, you know, I see this even at the work that I do. It's like, the work that I do, I get paid X amount of money, and that X amount of money is actually the top 1% of the whole world. Like, for example, I think if you earn like $30,000 a year, you earn 1%, you're the top 1% wealthiest person. But you probably don't see it because you're surrounded by everyone who's like keeping up with the Joneses, and that's also, you're stuck in a paradigms. So you think you always want more. And that's a funny thing where his book talks about it, I think, where it's like, if you put all the billionaire, the millionaire in a table, and then I'm just there like, who wants to be more richer? Raise your hand. And then everybody will raise their hand. We just want more as human beings, even though they have billions of dollars. And I think there's a point where like, money doesn't really do anything when you have that much money. And again, Tal Lopez talks about the study where it's like, there's a Nobel Prize winner where it's like 70,000 or something, that every dollar after that doesn't really make you more happy. In my personal opinion, I think, or based on Dan Lock's book, I really love his point about amplification, where it's like, money amplifies who you are. So I think I'm okay with money, although I can be a lot better, we all can. But, you know, like, say if you're an asshole and you have a lot of money, you're just gonna be a bigger asshole. If you're a nice guy and you have more money, you're just gonna be a nicer guy, you know. So it really just amplifies who you are. And he talks about being financially literate, which is quite ironic because school system, they don't teach you about finances. Even accountants don't, like, I think doing an accounting course, no one even pays attention, but it's so important, and no one teaches you this thing, like how to pay your taxes, all this shit. Otherwise, you know, your money, like, you're working for someone else. Like, someone's leveraging your time. It's kind of funny, but you don't realize it. Even if you realize it, other people is also being leveraged, you know? So you're kind of stuck in a paradigm. And I talk about the average of 5 people, where it's like, you surround yourself with people, it just becomes a norm. And you know, it's really hard to break out of it. So money is very important. It definitely needs to be taught, because think about it, in his book, I think he talks about like, or the Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think, where it's like, you know, you most likely a 9-to-5 job or whatever, you earn a salary or paid by the hour. Say you get paid $10 an hour, you don't actually get that $10, you know. Like, first thing, when you get that paycheck, it goes to taxation, which is the government, you know. After that, it probably goes to the bank, you know, home loan or mortgages or credit card debt, you know. So you have to be smart. So essentially, it's just save less, spend more. But then again, I'm going to talk about this in health, wealth, love, happiness. Money isn't everything. I think money is just one pillar out of the 4 pillars. So a classic example that Tal Lopez will talk about is like, you see a really rich person, like a billionaire who has a lot of money, yet they're fucking fat and they can't actually sit in their Ferrari. So would you really want to trade lives with them? No. And it's so true, because it's like, if money is everything and money gives you happiness, all right, I'll give you $1 billion if you cut both your arms and legs off. You probably wouldn't do it, you know? So it's like, you can't even use the money if you have no arms and legs. So it's important, it's really important, but you also have to balance the other aspects, like health, wealth, health, love, happiness. And another example is like, you may be super rich and you have like a mansion in the Beverly Hills, but as a guy, like, you have no woman to share it with, so it's kind of lonely and shit. I remember when I was one of my auntie who owns an apartment, it was brand new. It was brand new built, and I just lived there because no one was living there. So I was like, oh, might as well, you know. As a uni student, you have so much free time, so I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just live there for 2 days. And it was like brand new and everything. It had everything. I was living there like, holy shit. Like, this apartment is probably worth, you know, whatever. Let's just, for example, say $800,000. A normal person who works a 9-to-5 job would probably have to save like 7-8 years just to get this apartment. I'm living in this apartment right now. I don't have to pay anything for this, yet I still don't feel happy. So you really have to balance all that aspect of that life. Like, it's not everything, but money is very important. Another thing about money is like, it's like an illusion. Like, I think rich people know this. I think Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about this, where it's like, use money, it's just paper, right? But use money as a vehicle to get to where you want to go. That's all. I love Dan Locke's book where it's also like FU money. FU money is simply like a metaphor for like, how much money do you think you need in order to be happy? So it's not like, well, once I get $1 billion, it's like, what's your X amount, you know? Some people might be happy with just $10 an hour. Some people might be happy with 20. Some people might be happy with 60. It's just like, what is your lifestyle? What do you want your lifestyle to be? And how does your cash flow support that? That's all it is. But yeah, so it's like a vehicle to get to where you want to go. Money also buys one of the most valuable commodities, which is time, and I'll talk about it later. It doesn't really buy time, but it leverages other people's time, so you have more time to do what you want to do. So for example, if you're doing a 9-to-5 job and you're getting paid by the hour, but you're very passionate about that job, that's 9 hours you're never going to get back. Whereas if you're rich and you have multiple streams of income and you have a whole online business, passive income, you may have heard, you have that 9 hours to do whatever you want. So it does that really well. So it's also back to social conditioning. It's actually a very big norm that everyone around you is broke. I think Tyler talks about this. If you know how money works, you know, everyone should be rich. And it's true. In this economy, as Gary Vee would say, we're living in the best economy where like it's very easy to become rich. Like, a lot of people are like, there are more millionaires and billionaires than ever before because of the internet or whatever. So there's that. And the rich gets richer, and I love the video where it's like there's a Ferrari, you know, and it just goes underneath the, like, you know, the boom gate of the car park. It just goes underneath, so it doesn't have to pay. But essentially, like, it's true, the rich gets richer, and there's reasons behind it. So it's like, once you start a business, it's like, essentially it's just like, once you get the ball rolling and you actually get the ball across the line, it's like, it just gets easier and easier. It's almost like you have so much cash flow, like it just accumulates. It's like compound interest in a way. Another thing is like banks, you know, it's not really a good way to get money. I think to double your money in a bank, it takes like 2 lifetime or something. So that's something to keep in mind. So it's good to save money, but then again, you know, in life, what's the point of saving? Like, I know my auntie, she saves a lot of money and stuff, but like, you know, she's retired and stuff. It's like, are you ever going to spend that money? Like, you know, you can't take money with you when you die. So yeah, I think, okay, another thing about the rich people is that success leaves clue, and I don't think rich people would tell you how to become rich just for the sake of it, because they want to keep it a secret. Otherwise, if they tell you the secret recipe, it's like, it's like a barrier, you know? Like, it's like, okay, here's a good example. It's like a nightclub, you have to pay $100 to get in. You know, if you don't have $100, then you can't get in. So the people up there are high class, like the girls there are like hotter or whatever. And like, once you're at that party, it's like, people will treat you automatically like you have high status. Whereas like, if you just allow everyone to get in, it's like, it's no longer valuable, you know, it's no longer worth anything. So it's like a barrier. Rich is like a barrier. That's why a lot of people live in the Hollywood Hills. That's why rich people live with rich people. And again, it goes back to dating. It's like, that's why like Ariana Grande won't date a homeless person. It's because she'll move down the social hierarchy rather than up. Anyways, kind of getting off topic. So there's also a lot of stereotype about rich people. But sorry, I'm gonna go back to the point where it's like, it's social norm to be broke. So I think Dan Locke talked about this, where it's like, unless you're born into wealth. So the reason why the wealth also gets wealthier is like, maybe you're a kid and you're born into wealth. It's like the people who are wealthy, they teach their kid how to be wealthy. But who teaches you how to be wealthy? Your parents, but they're not wealthy. So you're born into a hospital, and when the nurse touches you, they're not wealthy. You go to the school system, the teachers aren't wealthy. You go, you know, to uni, people around there are not wealthy. So, you know, you're just being a negative feedback loop about stuck in a paradigm, and everyone's just trying to say this is the norm to not be wealthy. So there's that. So there's a lot of stereotype about rich people. Like I said, we tend to think rich people are assholes and shit, or like they're capitalist, and they have their motives and stuff. But at the same time, here's a good example. I always like to say, like Tony Robbins, for example. He's probably rich, but he works really hard. And you may be thinking, like, why doesn't he just give the seminar for free? And there's two reasons. One is, if he gives the seminar for free, studies have shown that if you give something for free, people won't value it. Whereas if you put $50, it'll be like, oh, that must be valuable content. Number two is, like, you really want Tony Robbins to just do everything for free, because then you just be like, well, what's his motive, Like, if his motive isn't money, then, how can you trust that he's passionate about it? So it's kind of good. And I think Tyler Lopez talks about this, where he tried to just not worry about money, but in the end, he found that, like, in life, it's 50-50. So you have to be 50% live fully greedy by yourself and then give back 50%. And Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about this as well. So there's that point. And I have another point in my head, but I just forgot it. So we're living the best time. And there's a lot of misconception about money. I'll just leave it as that. I probably have more points. If you know me in real life, talk to me about it. If you're rich, I'm going to hang out with you so I can be rich. And again, rich is a subjective term, because we all define rich differently. Okay, cool.